Hello everyone, this is another edition of C Blog, and today I want to speak out on a relevant topic, and that is um, the uh, the faulty the flaws of economic nationalism. Um, and one There are two aspects of economic nationalism, and one of them is quite obvious as a big um, um, free, and the other one is not that so obvious. But I will make those points too. Um, the reason why uh, I'm talking about economic nationalism because policies being made on this theory. Uh, what this economic nationalism is that um, the best decisions for America and the American uh, economically is to protect the interest of the American worker, um, and and uh, the certain economic um, um, actions have to be taken in order for the, although they may be detrimental in the long run, they have to be taken to quote unquote protect the American worker. Um, the first aspect of economic nationalism is very obvious, is the idea of protecting American jobs by leveling out uh, the the amount of imports or or the trade the the trade deficit or trade between countries, and the idea is that imports from other countries which have cheaper labor are unfair to the American worker. So when when a company makes when make or makes cars or products outside and then sells it at a cheaper price, that undercuts um, an American manufacturing, and the whole idea is to protect American jobs by raising up imports, raising up the price of imports through tariffs, through fees. You know, there's talk about this border tax um, and other efforts because and the negotiation of NAFTA because uh, is uh, it has seen that it has perceived that it has a negative effect on the American worker. So of course the the flaw in this is that it doesn't take into account the the consumer, which benefits from 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 trade or imports. When you buy a car, when you buy uh, cheap um, cheap materials from Walmart, from when you buy cheap produce imported from Mexico or another country, you it benefits the the poor m- the most. So in the long run, you are actually by through things you're doing, you are rising the price of goods and services that that consumers purchase, and um, in the long run, you, um, companies that would decide want to invest in in American workers here, they other companies that would like to do through trade with us, um, buy would most likely not, because um, um, the there are trade barriers that exist. So other workers um, are hurt in the long run. Um, um, so this is this is the same fallacy that um, that accompanies when you raise minimum wage to protect the rise the income of Americans by raising their wages. In the long run, it hurts the poor because they're low skilled, and everything else, all other price of goods and services rise to compensate for the rise in labor. So that's the first aspect. The first aspect is obvious. The protectionism is part of, of trade protectionism, of economic nationalism. The other part, which is not so obvious, is um, protection against immigrant labor and restricting um, the amount of labor that comes in. We see this in the in the rhetoric of Trump and others from the right, uh, who most of the people from the right see immigrant group later as um, killing American jobs, um, and so in order to risk to protect the American workers, we have to restrict how much American labor can come, limit. The problem is that um, there the reason illiberal labor exists is because number one, there there are employers who are willing to hire labor at a lower price, and there are workers who are willing to work engage in that price. Like um, so, the market uh, uh, is dictating that um, these these immigrant labor um, want to engage, want to, um, like for example, produce. There's a there's huge amount of produce that comes from the Salinas Valley. My mom just came from there, and she recently was up there, and she saw that there was a lot of of food that was rotting away. Why? Because there was a shortage of immigrant labor, because people were too afraid to go out of work because uh, of the fear of being deported. So, um, in, you may think it's restricting immigrant labor is good for the American worker and the economy as a whole, but for for people who purchase goods and services from immigrant labor, like I was working for the United States store, a lot of the produce, a lot of the salads came from the Salinas Valley, which which has a lot of immigrant labor. So com- com- there are companies that are willing to pay low wages, and there are workers who are willing to work those wages. And this is how the market operates. Well, the uh, and well the by by restricting um, the amount of labor that comes from immigrant labor that comes in, um, because justification is rule of law or protect American jobs. Just you run the same um, you run the same fault flaws as protectionism, R- rising wages, I mean rising overall prices, because uh, companies have to hire um, um, at a higher rate at rates, and they have to pay higher wages just to attract um, uh, local local workers, native workers. So um, uh, what I'm trying to say is both of these policies are are operate under flawed economic assumptions, and if you want to be uh, um, laissez-faire free market supporter, you have to at least um, entertain the idea that the best way to to let the let the economy prosper is let the market work, uh, even though sometimes it goes against your gut or against your preference, but let the market work as it should. So that's my take in it, and hopefully um, you guys have considered both. And the, the solution, my solution to both is um, uh, lessen the, the the barriers to trade, and number two, which is not so popular, is um, create a more greater guest worker program, um, so 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 people who are here, who want to come here, can be here legally, so they won't have to be crossed illegally. So you have a more aggressive guest worker program, so there can be immigrant labor um, operate uh, uh, it, so it can operate legally and not under the shadows. All right. Thank you, and have a nice day.